Hello, Future Doc here. You don't usually hear me on the podcast, but here I am. So this podcast had some audio issues. I first recorded it with Phil. That didn't have any audio. And so then I recorded it with Rondo. And I was very quiet, but Rondo was an acceptable level. I think I have now fixed those issues. At least in OBS anyways. On here, who knows, but this was set to be the shortest podcast ever, but because of this intro I'm adding here and the outro at the end, it might be very, very close. But yes, I have Rondo on, and we talk about his graduate degree. He is talking about chronic wasting disease, so stay tuned, I guess.
Hello there, Dr. Sheep here. Welcome back to TGIF Talks, episode 133. I'm your host, Dr. Sheep. Not joined by Phil, not joined by Kyle, not joined by Will, not joined by Buck, and not joined by Jealous. Who else? We're out of guests. Well, I guess there's Tom, too. We had Tom at one point. No, we have a brand new guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, you may remember him from the Star Wars movies reviews. It is Rondo.
Yes, hello.
Hello! Yes, Rondo is here for his first podcast. This will get 3 views, but you know what? Screw it. Let's.
Oh, you never know. I have my old pull when
that is
when I
true.
had the channel.
The minute I say Rondo is on the podcast, that you do have an ability to pull in the old crew. Let's roll the intro and we can talk.
Yep. So never say never. Are you still there?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. We're playing the intro.
Okay, gotcha.
That answers my question of whether or not you're able to hear it. Apparently, you are not. No one's ever able to hear anything I play on here unless we're on Discord. But you don't do Discord, so.
That's why you can't see him, folks. Because he's in the cloud. He's in the Xbox game bar. It is what it is. I can't control that. So, hello. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Well, not too bad. Tell the viewers, what have you been up to?
Oh, so I have started a master's program at the University of North Dakota. So it goes over chronic wasting disease in deer.
Yes. Folks, we've discussed prions before. It wasn't the previous podcast. It was 2 podcasts ago. We discussed prions. And chronic wasting disease, if I'm not mistaken, is a prion disorder, disease. How do you classify
Yes, it is. It's a prion that affects the brain and other nerves and tissues.
Okay, I'm kind of curious. So, prions, I've always heard them affecting the brain. Is it possible for them to only, the ones I always know, they always infect the brain, but can prions theoretically infect, all tissues then?
Yeah, so actually for chronic wasting disease, it affects all the other tissue first, and then eventually works its way up to the brain.
So it's like rabies.
Yeah,
not like rabies. Rabies only affects nerves and then the brain.
So there's actually a couple different prion diseases, it's the Jacobs one for humans, what's the one for cows? Mad cow's disease, that's another prion one. So there's a couple of them that are similar that are like that, where it's a prion disease affecting wildlife or humans. So it's a pretty highly studied thing right now.
Of course, because as far as we're aware of, they're incurable.
Yeah, there's currently no cure or anything that really covers it, so that's why it's being studied so much. What I'm looking at right now is a gene that is possibly making it slow or making the deer less susceptible possibly to it.
Yeah, and I think, I didn't know, I don't remember if I mentioned this when I talked about it the last time on the podcast, but I learned that these prion diseases, so There's kind of three ways of getting it, at least in my opinion. One, there's a genetic disorder, and that's actually the most common in humans, where it just, you're predisposed to it. At some point in your lifetime, a gene will just go bad, and you will start producing these misfolded proteins. Other option is you eat something that has it in it, specifically something from the brain, usually, right? Or can it be transmitted through other tissues, or usually only brain and brain stems?
Usually for like the eating stuff, you need it out of the brain, but like for chronic wasting disease in deer, it's kind of different, but I can talk about that when you're done.
Okay. And then the third way, which is kind of, I would assume, how chronic wasting disease works. Basically, the animal or whatever gets stressed, and anytime you have stress, this has an effect with how cells replicate. And when cells replicate, this causes mutations. And when you have a mutation, you can get misfolded proteins because the DNA tells the cell how to make these new proteins. And if those instructions are wrong, well, you get a prion disease, right?
Yeah, so for the actual like getting the prion that like starts it all after the stress is usually in the environment or direct contact. So for the deer, they can shed the prion into the environment, and this prion pretty much can stay there in the environment until, I don't know, decades and decades, because it literally can't, I think it takes like 10,000 degrees for it to like be destroyed. So that's impossible in the environment. And then, so it's pretty much stuck in the environment, and then other deers can get it. And then also through direct contact as well, they can get it.
Really? Okay, so the deer, it's way more transmissible than like the other diseases with humans.
Yeah, so that's a big reason why they've been looking at it, because how transmissible it is and how it can just stay in the environment over decades.
Well, that's any prion. They're crazy. You would think a misfolded protein would be less stable than like normal proteins. Like most proteins, they decay quite rapidly once they're just out in the environment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Oh no, you could wrap the outside of a spacecraft and shove it into the frickin' sun and probably survive. Actually, what is the surface temperature of the sun?
I don't even know.
We're gonna find out here.
Sounds good.
Surface temperature of the sun. I want that. Why is it in Kelvin? Oh. Why is it in Kelvin? What universe? I don't want Kelvin to Celsius. I know how to do that freaking math. I want Fahrenheit. God. Holy crap, the surface of the damn sun cannot destroy these things.
Yeah, they're pretty hard to get rid of.
What the hell? The surface of the sun is 9,929 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, you could wrap your spacecraft in these things and it would survive. You gotta be kidding me.
Beautiful.
Well, I shouldn't say, I guess that's when it breaks down. I mean, I don't know if these things actually can be made into a structure and wrapped around a spacecraft. That's not to say that they don't start to melt, long before if you can actually make them into a structure. Not that you would want to, because if that blows up on the launch pad, you're going to have a biological hazard.
Yeah, no kidding. It's just crazy how much research is being put into chronic wasting disease right now and how much we don't know about it.
Well, I wonder if we'll be able to get like a cure for humans out of the deal, Not for like chronic wasting disease, but the other prion diseases that affect humans.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of research into everything with prions right now, since we know so little about them.
Well, what's kind of wild about these things? Is so like the human ones. A lot of times, all the outbreaks that usually happen is because other humans ate the brains of another human.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this is common in Africa, at least in the video I watched. It might be common in other places. And then all the other outbreaks in humans, I shouldn't say outbreaks, I think there's been one reported case of mad cow in humans.
I have no idea, honestly. That's a big thing for hunting, though, right now is can people eat deer that are like have had chronic wasting disease?
Of course, you just have to throw it into the sun.
Yeah, but some people do eat it, and like every wildlife agency currently is saying don't do that, but some people still do. Technically, there's no research backing that you get it, but once you have these prions in you, technically they can be like dormant for decades.
Because they build up. That's usually what happens in humans, like, especially the genetic ones, which we can actually probably cure the genetic ones probably within the decade. I mean, we already have the capabilities of editing genes. We just have to figure out what genes, and I think we do. We just have to figure out how to edit those and prevent these misfolded proteins.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of genetics work into it.
Then we could cure it. We could cure those in humans, but there's nothing stopping from a new one popping up randomly. But of course, the other issue, I don't know in the human case whether once it misfolds the protein, whether that's all it takes and it can just start the chain reaction like it can with bovine spongioform, where it just starts to cause all of them to misfold. I don't know if it's just the constant production of it that does it, or if they have the same ability. So, I mean, it's probably not a cure, but we can slow it down. I mean, the ones in humans, it already takes until you're like 80 for it to kill you. So, you've lived a good life by that point.
Yeah, there's just so many different zoonotic diseases in general that can cause issues in the future. It's interesting to look at all of them.
I saw a video. There's a few countries in Africa where they catch mosquitoes and turn them into like patties and cook them and eat them.
Really?
Yeah. And then somebody comments, there's a new disease, and somebody was like, "What do you mean? How's there going to be a new disease?" I'm like if they've been probably doing this for decades. If the disease hasn't shown up then, what's to say it's going to show up now? I'm like, and then I want to comment, the Chinese have been eating, exotic animals for literal millennia, and look, it's just it's a probability of numbers. It happened. It jumped. If we don't get into the conspiracy theories about being lab grown,
yeah, it's crazy. Everything that like all different parts of the world need to like communicate on this stuff.
So do they have chronic wasting disease in other countries?
Yeah, so actually, so it started out in Colorado in a captive deer. They found it in like 1967 was the first case they found it. Then a couple years later, it was found in wildlife populations, and then I think it's been found in around 25 states now, throughout Canada, Norway, and I think South Korea now.
Oh, do we have an idea of how it got to like South Korea?
South Korea, I just have to guess it'd have to be some sort of like transportational thing where you transported deer over there. I'm trying to think of what I know. They have the little Sitka deer or whatever that are over there, and I forget what else. But I think they have either a mule or a whitetail also over there. But it's different species of deer all over that are kind of getting it. So it's kind of interesting to follow that. And there's a bunch of different coalitions now that kind of share research on chronic wasting disease and genetics.
Right. Is it possible? So these misfolded proteins. So a lot of them are impervious to even being wiped out by bleach. Is the one that causes chronic wasting disease, can it be cleaned off surfaces this way, or is it once it's on there you're kind of screwed?
I honestly don't know on that question. I've mostly just been looking at it through the environment and stuff, so.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious, let's say a butcher gets an infected deer and doesn't know it. Let's find out it can transmit to humans. He doesn't clean a surface after working with it. Do we have an outbreak on our hands?
Yeah, I would guess it would depend on how much like he works with it, obviously, too, and the prevalence of chronic wasting disease on that particular thing. Because I'm sure it's similar to in the environment that if it's like one deer that has chronic wasting disease, obviously you're gonna have a lot less cases from it coming through the environment. But if you have a whole group of deer that are in like a family and they're running through the same area, then it's going to be a lot more prion shed. But yeah, I'm not sure on that.
These things, do you ever feel like you ever, do you fear them at all? Or are you like, I understand these things, there's no fear to have? Or you're just like, I screw up. Game.
What'd you say? Can you say that one more time a little louder?
So I guess, do you have any fear associated with when you're working with these samples and stuff, or are you just like, oh, I'll be fine or whatever?
I don't know. For me, it's pretty. I don't know. I'm in the lab and it's sterilized and everything. The nice thing is some states are now like when you get a deer, you have to take it to like a cleaning post, obviously, and then that they have officials remove the lymph nodes and stuff to see if there's chronic wasting disease in certain deer. So obviously, some states are more ahead than others, and testing needs to improve to make sure like other states are not getting chronic wasting disease, because I've heard of some states that do like one annual test a year of a random deer to see if it has chronic wasting disease, but that's not really a good representation. So, but for me, I'm not really worried because I'm in a sterile environment and pretty much I know which deer have bags labeled positive or negative, and then I can also just keep a sterile practice, and as long as I'm not like eating the tissue or doing anything like that, I'm all right.
Guys, let's go grill up some tissue samples here. Don't you want some deer lymph node? Mmm.
Yeah, I don't know how some people eat deer that have had chronic wasting disease. I would just, that would be that'd be a little too much for me. But
Do you So I guess, can we test? So like, I know mad cow disease, if I'm not mistaken, at least I thought it was, maybe I'm wrong. It's kind of like rabies, in which you can't know you have it. You can't confirm a case until you kill the animal.
hmm
Are you able to test like blood or maybe get a lymph node biopsy?
so for chronic wasting disease, it's kind of tough because I don't know, but it can start from like I think kill you from 6 to 18 months. It usually takes to kill a deer. So by the time they're showing symptoms and stuff, they're usually dead pretty quick, and then you just remove the lymph nodes anyway. You
Right.
can't really do a lymph node biopsy, obviously. It normally takes the whole lymph node, or sometimes you can get it out of different tissue as well. But the brain tissue or lymph nodes is usually the best place to get it from, and it's usually after the deer is dead.
Okay. So it is theoretically possible, but pretty much, it's got to be dead.
Yeah, for chronic wasting disease, at least, it's after the deer is dead.
Just like every other damn prion disease.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes with prion diseases, it
Oh,
seems.
oh no, Grandpa died. Maybe, I'm sure it's probably just old age. Doctor goes in. Oh no, no, he ate some mad cow meat or something stupid. Or no, he had Schwartz Yako disease, or whatever the heck it's called. Isn't that a prion disease?
Yeah, that's the human one, is that Jacobs syndrome or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So there you go, kids. If you ever see a deer, what are the symptoms? Tell the kids what the symptoms are, so they know to avoid them.
So yeah, it's kind of tough because it also matches some other deer diseases like blue tongue and stuff like that. Pretty much you're gonna see a deer that is wasting away. It's lost a bunch of weight, dazed, confused, kind of just out of the place, roaming around during the daylight, very skinny. It's going to look at like a sick deer, and then you can't really tell it's chronic wasting disease until after you test for it.
Well, there you go, kids. Avoid sick deer.
Yeah, you'll be able to tell it's a sick deer. But like I said, in some cases, if you go hunting and you kill a deer, that's why you got to take it to the cleaning station so they can test and make sure that it doesn't have chronic wasting disease, and you just killed it before the symptoms kind of came in.
I just thought popped into my head. I swear this will be the last question on the deer.
Okay.
I swear. Who knows? How long does it How long does it take for those tests to come back?
For the chronic wasting disease?
Yeah, so I shoot my deer, I take it to the cleaning station, they test it. How long before I can start, carving it up?
I think it depends on the amount of samples, but I think it usually takes about a week or so, because then they got to like package it up and send it out. So for our research, we already know like the samples and stuff, if they were positive and negative, but we had to send them out to Minnesota to get like a genomic sequencing and stuff of all the different tissue samples, and that's going to take a couple of months, but that was like thousands of samples. So I think it usually takes a week or two, maybe a little longer, depending.
Jesus Christ, I'm gonna shoot this deer, carve it up, not know whether it's, potential biological contaminant, and then, throw it in my freezer for 2 weeks just to get a call back. Yeah, you gotta throw it away. The deer season will be over.
Well, like I said, some people just eat it no matter what and don't really care or take it into a cleaning station. But yeah, I think it usually takes a little bit because they have to send it to a lab to test it, unless you obviously.